Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to take some of our leftovers and we're going to make some new baits out of them. We've got a bunch of blues and some green pumpkin with gold flake, and then we've got some watermelon red with some red. We're going to make some OKEECHOBEE CRAW with these two colors, and then the watermelon red and the red is just going to be another version of watermelon red. We're going to start with these 2 cups. We're going to get these cut up, throw them in the microwave, melt them back down, and we're going to get started. Alright, while those 2 cups are melting down, I wanted to show you guys some of the recent custom jigs that we've made for people. So this one right here actually has some of the living rubber as well as your regular standard silicone. This is in just a nice kind of a red craw color, and this is a custom cranberry color for this little grub. It's a really cool little bait. We made this one. And then for me personally, I made some of these. This is with that black watermelon color that you saw in the last video. And I added some of the black living rubber to this jig with some watermelon red. Really cool little jigs there. And then this is the standard size swim jig with a 3.8 inch paddle tail on the back. And what we've done is we have refined our micro swim jig. So you can see the size difference here in those 2 jigs. This one is an 1/8 ounce head with a 1/0 hook and the little 2.6 inch swim bait. And the biggest difference you're going to see here is if you look at the 2 skirts, the micro swim jig has the fine cut silicone. It's about half the thickness of your standard silicone. So you basically get the exact same presentation in about, I would say, half the size as far as the overall profile. So really cool little micro swim jig. I just wanted to show you guys that, see what you guys think. I really like these. If you're into BFS fishing or finesse fishing, or even throwing it for kids, if you want a kid to be able to throw something like this, but it's not super heavy and bulky to where they can still get away with throwing it on a smaller rod, these little micro swim jigs are a great option. All right, we got both of these 2 colors melted back down. They're both sitting at right at 330 degrees right now. That's a little bit warmer than I normally shoot laminates, but this is the first run of the day. So we're going to go with it and hope for the best. So we're going to make 1 run of these 2 molds real quick, and then if we have enough plastic left over, we'll make a 2nd run. Alright, our plastic is cooled off. We're going to check these out. So this first mold is the 3.4 inch Ecto CRAW. We'll see how well this turned out. If I can get this apart. Oh yeah, that looks really good. So the cool thing about this color, the way the green pumpkin on the top and then that blue on the bottom kind of blend together, in the claws it almost looks like a teal color. It's a really cool color. A lot of times when people make this, the green pumpkin side is going to be a little bit thicker, so you will get a little more green on the claws. I kind of like it just like this. You can see right there on the sprue those 2 colors. But yeah, really cool. This is really good. I like to throw this on the back of like a little ball head finesse jig. It's one of my favorite trailers. These little claws have a ton of action. Really cool little bait. And then let's check out this other one. So this next one is the 4 inch knuckle dragger. Both of these are molds from Angling AI. I don't know if I've showed this mold onto the channel yet or not. It's a nice little creature bait. Oh yeah, those look really good too. So there's our green pumpkin side. So you can see this bait right here didn't get quite as much green pumpkin as the others, but still just a super cool little color. There's the blue side. So this bait in particular, because of how thick the bodies are and how thin the nose of the bait is, you do want to shoot these as cool as possible. If you shoot them too hot, you will get some dents in the bodies. I don't know if you can see it. You can kind of see a little bit of a dent right there. That's just prone to happen when you have a thicker bodied bait and a really small opening. Because what happens is this opening up here, as we mentioned before, as the plastic cools, it shrinks. and this opening will cool and shut off before all the plastic in the sprue can keep the body full. It's not a big deal. It doesn't affect the action of the bait whatsoever. Still makes a great bait. But there is round number 1. We're going to get that leftover plastic heated back up, and we're going to make some more. All right, and here we go for round 2. All right, so I just injected the second round. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of plastic left in these cups. But what I do, once I'm done, if I'm trying to get as much out of it as I can, is I'll take the blending block apart. I'll pull this very bottom piece off where those colors are mixed and throw it off to the side. You can take your blue, put it back in there, put your green pumpkin back in there, and then I'll take the plugs from the last round, drop some green in there, we'll be fine. And then you take these plugs that come out of your injector, and I'll cut them up and put them back in there, and then you can remelt that down, and most of the time you can get at least one more mold shot, and you'll get just that last little bit out of your plastic. All right, we're gonna check out this second round. And then we cut up all that extra that I was talking about and put it back in the cups. We're actually going to do a little something different with those. And we'll show you that here in a minute, but yeah. There is round number 2 of the 3.4 Ecto CRAWs. There's that green pumpkin side. There's the blue side. Super cool color. This blue is, like I said, is basically sapphire blue. It's just a really bright blue with that blue flake in it. So there's the CRAWs, and now let's look at these little creature baits. This second run turned out better than the first run. So the second run I injected at around 320 degrees, a little bit colder than the first run, because once the injector and the blending block has some hot plastic ran through it, it warms it up and you can get away with injecting a little bit colder. You can preheat your blending block and injector and do the same thing, but I'm not making these for anyone. These are just for me personally, so I wasn't too concerned about it. But yeah, super cool. We're going to get this other leftover melted back down. We're going to do something a little bit different, and we'll get to that as soon as it's melted. All right, so we got the leftovers heated back up, and what we're actually going to do is we're going to make some stick baits out of these. So what we're going to do to this plastic, this is a medium blend plastisol. So we're going to add some softener and then some salt. So the rule of thumb, for every 1 cup of plastic, 1 tablespoon of softener will lower it 1 durometer. So if you have a medium plastisol and you want to make it soft, which is commonly used for stick baits, we'll use a tablespoon of softener per cup, and then a 1/4 cup of salt per cup of plastic is a good starting point for the correct amount of salt to plastic for stick baits. That's normally what everybody goes off of. It's worked really well. If you want to get closer to like the Gary Yamamoto, maybe add a little bit more softener or a little bit more salt. The salt's going to do 2 things. It's going to allow the stick baits to sink. So if you're wanting to throw weightless stick baits, it is key that you add salt to those. And then the other thing that it adds is weight. The more salt you have, the heavier the bait's going to be. So I have weighed stick baits before, and a weighted stick bait or a salted stick bait is around 2 ounces, sometimes heavier than a non-salted stick bait, which may not sound like a whole lot, but it can be quite a bit. So we're going to get our softener stirred in real good. And then one thing that you're probably going to notice when we add the salt, and I'm only going to add about 3/4 of a cup for salt because we don't quite have a full cup of plastic, but you're probably going to notice a lot of bubbles. So salt does tend to draw in moisture as it sits there in the bag, and moisture and plastisol do not get along very well. So once we get our salt put in, or get it all in there, you can throw it in a vacuum chamber, but vacuuming salt in baits can a lot of times make the plastisol actually boil over and out of the cup. So what I like to do is once I get my salt all stirred in, I'll heat it up in the microwave, Once you're done heating your plastic, just let it sit in the microwave for another, say, minute or so, and all those bubbles, because of the heat, will actually rise to the surface and pop. So you can get rid of bubbles without a vacuum chamber. Once you're done microwaving, just let it sit in there for another 30 seconds to a minute. You may have to do it 2 or 3 times, and then the majority of those bubbles will be gone. So we're going to get these thrown back in the microwave, because when you add the softener and the salt, it cools off the plastic a lot. So we're going to get them back up to temperature, run these stick worms, and check them out. All right, so we got those both heated back up. The one thing I did do off camera was I added 2 drops of black to each side, because the salt will actually brighten the colors. So I added a couple drops of black just to kind of keep them close to where we started. Both cups are right at around 300 degrees. For stick baits, you do want to inject as cold as you can get away with, just to prevent denting. So we've got a 5-inch stick bait and a 6-inch stick bait. We're going to run both of these molds real quick, and then we'll check them out. All right, these are cooled off. We're going to check them out. So we'll open the 6-inch ones first. And there we have that green pumpkin side. And then there's the blue side. So you can see how the blue is still pretty bright. If I wouldn't have added the couple drops of black, that would have been super bright. Would have been too bright in my opinion. So when you add salt, it does kind of brighten those colors a little bit. So I just added a couple drops of black just to kind of keep them as close to original as we could. Now let's look at these 5-inch ones. Yep. All those turned out really well. There's our blue side and the green pumpkin. So I'm going to get what last little bit left over we've got heated up. I'll run a little bit more just to finish it off, and then we're going to move on to this next color, which is the reds and then the watermelon red colors. All right, so we got those other 2 cups melted down. While I do like the color of both of these, what we're actually going to do is add, let me grab it. We're going to add a few drops of brown to the red side. I like the red, I just don't want it quite as bright, so we're going to add a few drops of black just to kind of mute that color a little bit. All right, so we're going to start with about 4 or 5 drops of that. See where that gets us. All right, yeah, we're going to add a little bit more. With another 5 drops. I don't think my brown. So these colors, if they sit for a long time, you do need to shake them. You have to shake them really well. I feel like this one's kind of hard packed a little at the bottom. So if you listen, so they put little like BBs down in the bottom to kind of help mix those colors. I feel like this one has kind of settled a little bit because I'm not really getting too much brown out of it. All right, it's starting to change a little bit. What I think I'm going to do is add probably 2 drops of black now, because I don't want to add too much. We'll just go with 2 drops of black. That'll darken it up a little bit. And then the way, when we laminate these, the way the red will play off of the green, it'll kind of pull out a little more of that brown color. So yeah, I think we're good with that. It's still pretty red. It's just not quite as bright as when we started. So we're going to get these heated back up, get our temperatures even, and then we're going to start making some more craws. All right, got our plastic back up to temperature. They're both sitting at about 325. So we're going to make this first run of craws, and then we'll check it out. All right, we're going to take these out of the mold, check them out. This is the Do It Molds Katana Craw mold. You'll see it looks a little different. So this is a cast aluminum mold. The finish of the bait is going to be a little more dull than what we're used to out of the CNC molds, but does not affect how well it fishes. If anyone tries to tell you that these dull baits don't fish very well, look at how many pros use the Berkeley power bait. That'll give you a good indication of the fish don't care. There's our green pumpkin side. There's our red side, and this is kind of what I wanted. I wanted the red to look like a brownish red, not a really bright red. This is another really cool bait to throw on like a little finesse jig. If you guys have this mold, so you'll notice over here, let me pick it up. See how these claws, or the little antennas, didn't fill in all the way. So when I got this mold, it looks like all the other ones did. When I got this mold, I had really bad problems with these antennas not filling in all the way. And what I did was I took a little razor blade and I basically scratched and made the air vents deeper from where those antennas go over to these main air channels. I scratched those air vents and it made a huge difference. So this one not filling in over here could have been a few different things. I could have injected too slow. I might have had this side clamped a little too tight, or I might need to clean out those little air vents just a little bit more. But if you have that problem with this mold, that's helped mine. As you can see, I have 4. Well, this one didn't quite fill in all the way, so the 2 on the end is not filling in. Were more than likely just me clamping the mold a little too tight. On the next run, I won't clamp quite as tight, and we'll see if that fixes it. But yeah, really, really cool little mold. All these baits turned out really well. Those little antennas not filling in all the way do not affect how well the bait works. It's still a really, really good little bait. I'm going to get the rest of that plastic heated up. I'm going to make the rest of these off camera, and then we'll check all of the baits that we got out at the very end. All right, and there is our finished run. We made 6 of the little knuckle draggers. I made 10 of these craws. Made 8 of the 6-inch stick baits, 8 of the 5-inch stick baits, and then 6 of the little 3.4 ecto craws. Which ones do you guys like the best? I kind of like these little craws. These, like I said, this is the Do It Molds Katana Craw. It's a really cool little mold. Not a lot of people talk about it. These cast aluminum molds kind of get overlooked a little bit, but I really, really like them. Here's one of the 6-inch stick baits. But yeah, just another really cool way to use all your leftover plastic, and you don't always just have to mix it all in together. You can actually separate by colors like we did here and duplicate some pretty popular colors. This Okeechobee CRAW color is a very, very popular color, specifically down in Florida, kind of on the East Coast, but works really good everywhere. That green pumpkin with the gold flake is a really, really cool color, and it accents with that blue really well. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Hit that like button. Leave a comment down below. Let us know which one you guys like the best. What would you have made if you had these colors left over? Make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, share the video. We appreciate all the support, and we'll see you guys on the next one.